What is up, guys? I hope you're doing well. I know it's been a little while since I've done a music licensing video, but it's good to be back. Today, I am going to be doing a 1-year update for my switch from ASCAP to BMI. Yeah, if you're considering switching or if you have switched, this is something that might help you. I would say that so far I am pleased with switching to BMI. If you haven't seen my other videos, I switched from ASCAP to BMI because I don't like the way that ASCAP pays royalties to sync licensing composers with their whole survey system and just lack of a lot of payments that they should have been paying. So I switched to BMI in July of 2025, and now it's July 2026. I've had 3 BMI statements. Well, technically 4 BMI statements since switching. The first one was just blank, though, because it was only a month after I switched, and I didn't have any catalog really yet. The BMI statements have been growing consistently by about $100 per statement, so not a lot. But it's much more than the beginning of my ASCAP career, where I would see, it was a couple years before I even got anything. And I know I was getting placements during the time. But anyway, as my BMI statements grow slowly but surely, my ASCAP statements, really the international statements have been declining by 100 or a couple hundred per statement. So ASCAP is still the lion's share of the earnings for now. But for BMI, the domestic and the international are both going up. ASCAP, the domestic is a crapshoot anyway. But I've had a couple, decent statements recently from ASCAP. Decent as far as what I know from how they pay for domestic royalties. One thing I'm noticing just as a trend on ASCAP is that the TV has been going a little bit down, but internet stuff has been going up. So I got more on TikTok, YouTube, stuff like that, more royalties for that stuff than I had in the past. In fact, it's July now, and I got a July domestic statement from ASCAP that was pretty good for those categories. Netflix as well. Streaming and internet are both going up. The TV was a bit lower than usual, but all in all, it was about an average statement. BMI, it's still pretty young in my career with them, but I'm starting to see royalties from U.S. and in other countries. My most recent statement, which was May, is a 9-page one from BMI. But there's stuff on it. I need to correct something I said in a previous video. I thought that I had gotten paid through BMI for a track that I had written when I was with ASCAP for a domestic statement, and that wasn't true. It's just that BMI pays so quickly compared to ASCAP that I had thought it was an old, it's a golf, 18 holes golf show. So I was like, oh, I'm getting paid for one of the old ones. And I didn't know why BMI was paying me for it, but it's because it's a brand new BMI track and it happened to pay quickly. So one of the biggest differences I've noticed for domestic payments at least is that BMI pays much, much quicker than ASCAP. And so far they've been paying for the known placements that I've had and some unknown. ASCAP, on the other hand, you'll get some unknown placements because TuneSat doesn't detect everything. I'd get cue sheets and not get paid. You get some cue sheets on BMI, or at least you can see if your track was used in a certain show, it'll show up. But the catalog's so big that it won't even display my catalog. And that's probably the case for a lot of people. But anyway, yeah, BMI, I got paid for a domestic thing about 6 months after it aired. And it's pretty good. A golf thing for $45 and then another for $23. If I had gotten those payments every time I got a golf placement with ASCAP, I would be at least hundreds of dollars richer right now. And imagine if every sports placement paid from ASCAP. I might be a rich man right now. This is why I switched, and it seems like it's on the up. To put it in perspective, on my this month ASCAP statement for domestic stuff, I had a 2024 placement on March Madness that finally paid, and it was small amount of money. So the difference is huge so far, but it's still very early for me. I'm not in the 4 figures yet for BMI. but I still am for ASCAP for my international statements. Domestic is a crapshoot. You never know. For anybody who's watching who is interested in switching or who has switched or anything like that, there's one thing that I want to talk about, and that is the song view status of your tracks. So since I switched, I left my old works with ASCAP. So ASCAP will collect the domestic royalties for the old works for the lifetime of the copyrights. On BMI, everything has a song view status, reconciled or unreconciled. A lot of my old tracks are listed as unreconciled. By doing some research, I found out that that means that ASCAP is still representing those works. I went onto BMI, I downloaded a PDF of all the unreconciled tracks. A lot of it's my old non-exclusive stuff, which I could switch over, but I don't care, and it would be too much work. Some of it is unreconciled tracks because they were international music libraries, and we didn't switch them over. I didn't switch anything over, by the way. But anyway, if you switch to BMI, which I do recommend if you're in the sync licensing business, take a look at all the unreconciled tracks and see if there's any new tracks since switching to BMI that wound up on there, because that means there's a mistake. I found one or two newer tracks that are unreconciled, so I'll be reaching out to BMI to see why that is. Reconciled just means that everything is correct in the system. Everything lines up as far as who the publisher is listed as, who the composer is, and the correct PROs. I'm guessing that these unreconciled tracks will still be paid by ASCAP internationally. I haven't studied my statements enough to see whether that's the case or not, but that is my guess. Moral of the story, make sure your stuff is reconciled, and if not, make sure that you're getting paid through ASCAP for it. But as I look at it, almost all of it is just old non-exclusive stuff and a couple of different music libraries that are international. Maybe just it takes longer to reconcile stuff because it has to go through several PROs. But I'm not worried about it because that stuff mostly places internationally anyway. And either ASCAP or BMI, the transition is happening. So I'll get paid from one or the other. My ASCAP international statements are still pretty good, though they are declining. It's still, after 1 year, ASCAP is still earning the lion's share of everything. With BMI gradually increasing, I believe I made the right choice, especially for domestic stuff. Something else to mention, I pulled up my BMI statements that I've gotten so far, and I am seeing some American shows, but the re-airings are in, for example, Denmark, Estonia, etc. So the American shows, though I'm still getting paid from ASCAP for domestic stuff, those same tracks are getting paid through BMI. So that is an important transition. Every ASCAP statement goes down maybe a couple $100 compared to last year's statement. As the BMI goes up slowly, the ASCAP goes down slowly. So I'm looking at probably making approximately the same amount that I made last year from licensing. Whereas on a normal 1 year to the next, I would hope, and I usually would see, an increase of a couple $1,000s or whatever of my overall earnings. But because of the transition, at least it's staying about the same as it was last year, so I'm happy with that. I think once I've had maybe 2 years experience with BMI, I'll be making more than ASCAP, but we shall see. A couple people reached out to me based on these last few videos I've done, the ASCAP to BMI switch. So I'm glad I was able to influence some of you guys to switch over because I believe that it'll be a lot better. And I'm happy so far with BMI. Yeah, and I know some people have been waiting for me to make this video. So here it is, and I appreciate all you guys for checking out my stuff. I haven't done the licensing videos in a while. I've been doing more guitar gear and guitar tone stuff. If you're into that stuff, then please check out some of those videos. If you're recording guitar for your licensing stuff, I think it's useful stuff. My channel has converted over to that type of content. I'm still doing licensing, as much as I was, just not making YouTube videos about it really anymore. And that's okay, because I've said all I need to say with the crash course and everything. Anyway, thanks guys. We'll see you again next time.